In today's demonstration, I'm going to talk about monitoring the vital signs of a conscious mouse utilizing the MouseOX Plus system. So today you'll see that I'm working with a white mouse, and my mouse is currently in one of our conscious measurement enclosures. These are optional accessories for use with a MouseOX system, but I have the sensor around my subject's neck right here. Up to the orange part is our sensor. And just to show you our sensor in a little bit more detail, this is a larger sensor, but on one side we have a light, and on the other side we have what's called a photodiode. And this just clips right around your subject's neck. It doesn't cause any undue pressure to be placed on your subject, just enough so that we can make contact with the skin. And basically, when we are monitoring conscious subjects, we are sending the light through the carotid artery, and that's how we're able to make our measurements. If you're working with dark mice, our device will work on dark mice as well. However, you need to remove the hair at the sensor site. This can be done in two ways. If your subject is anesthetized at all, you can remove their hair using hair trimmers. However, if you do not want to anesthetize your subject, you can use a depilatory cream like Nair around their neck to remove their fur. We have what's called a blank clip, and these are included with every sensor that you purchase. And what you can do is run Nair along this and then put it on your subject's neck, and then let it sit there for a few moments and take the clip off, and you'll see that you've removed the hair in the sensor location. Now, this only needs to be done with dark-colored subjects. If they're white or nude or hairless, you do not need to worry. If they are dark, the reason you have to remove their hair is because the light will have trouble passing through the dark-colored fur. So what I'm going to do now is start up the system. So I'm just going to minimize my subject for a moment. So what I'm going to do is go to Monitor Subject. I'm taking an awake measurement today from an adult mouse, and I'm using a collar sensor, as that's the only sensor you can use on a conscious subject. My subject is not shaved, and my subject is above 15 grams. Once I go in here, I'm going to hit Start, and you'll see it prompts and tells me how much of my sensor I have used. It's recommended that you only use the sensor for 100 hours. And what you can see is that our system will start monitoring our subject and passing the light through the subject, and you'll see our measurements coming in. So here's my mouse, but just to get away from the mouse, I'm just going to open this up so we can focus more on the software right now. So our measurements can be found down in this area. We have our breath rate, and the way we calculate our breath rate is that every time the subject breathes, their thoracic cavity expands and contracts. And with that expansion and contraction, there's pressure that's placed on the arteries that surround the thoracic cavity, and we're able to pick up a small change in blood volume when that happens. There can be more information found on our website about that. However, that is our breath rate measurement. Now, you can see here that as my subject moves around, and I'm going to just pull my subject up again so you can see this. My subject's currently walking around in its cage and grooming itself a little bit. And what you'll notice that can happen is sometimes our system can lose measurements. However, as soon as my subject stops, those measurements will start to come back in. In general, pulse oximetry, that is one of the limitations to the technology, is that it is motion sensitive. However, if I let my mouse be in this cage for a little bit of time, the mouse will slow down to the point that I can spot check the animal and gather some data from the subject. So I just want to make you all aware that it is much different than monitoring an anesthetized subject. However, it can be done, and there are thousands of people that are using our device to monitor conscious subjects. So back to our system here, and we'll just kind of let our subject do its thing. We have our oxygen saturation measurement, and when the measurement is appearing in red, that means that it's a valid calculation. When it goes gray, that means that we are not sure about that calculation, so we are not comfortable reporting it at that time. So you'll see right now as my subject moves around, I will lose the measurements from time to time. The next measurement is our heart rate measurement. You can see right now that my subject is around 780 beats per minute, give or take a few. Our system has been developed from the ground up for use in mice and rats. It is not a human pulse ox that has been backwards engineered for use in mice and rats. We developed and calibrated the system with murine subjects. So our heart rate, you can see, is very high, and that is one of the things that's unique about our pulse oximeter. We are patented to get heart rates between 450 and 900. However, on the lowest end of the spectrum, we can start at 90 beats per minute, and on the upper end of the spectrum, we can go up to 900. So 90 to 900 is our range. Now the next measurement that you'll see here is our breath distension measurement, and that is not available whenever you're using the collar sensor, as there's too much noise due to the amount of blood that is flowing through the carotid artery. The next measurement that we have is the pulse distension, and what that will show you is how much blood is moving through the sensor site at any given time. And this is useful more so if you're working with anesthetized subjects. You need to make sure that you have an adequate amount of blood in the light path, and we recommend that you have above 10 micrometers, and that is necessary for our system to make a calculation. Now over to these windows here, you will see that we have different windows. The first one is activity. So you'll see that we're giving a value of 1 for when the subject is active and 0 for when the subject is not active. So you can see that my subject was quite active and I lost my measurements in here. However, when my subject slows down, my measurements come back in. So this is just useful if you're looking at your subject. Maybe you step away from your lab bench for a while and you come back and say, you know, my data hasn't really appeared. You can see that your animal was moving around, perhaps grooming themselves or just running around in their cage. So that is our activity measurement. We then have our heart rate, and you can see it's kind of way at the top, but I'm going to move this. So by clicking this button, I can get our heart rate into a nice range here. So this is our heart rate, and you can see that we really never lose the heart rate measurement. The heart rate measurement is the most important measurement that we have to get in order to be able to calculate oxygen saturation. So our software works very hard in never losing the heart rate measurement. We then have our oxygen saturation measurement, and you'll see that there are some fluctuations depending on where the animal is in relation to its bedding. Sometimes if the animal will put their nose in their bedding, our system is so sensitive it can pick up in a decrease in oxygen saturation very quickly. So this is our oxygen saturation, and then we have our breath rate measurement. Now, depending on how active or stressed the animal is, you'll see that your breath rate measurement as well as your heart rate measurement can change quite a bit. Whenever you're working in our device, you can record your data. And the MouseOX Plus allows you to record your data in a variety of formats and speeds. One is a text file, which can easily be imported into Microsoft Excel, and the other is a WinDAC file. WinDAC is a third-party software that we include with our system, and it will give you a graphical representation of your data. So I'm going to show you how to record a text file, and you can also select the sampling rate at which you wish to record, either 1 data point per second, 5 data points per second, or 15 data points per second. So I'm just going to save this to my desktop, and you'll see that it's going to save according to today's date, which is February 7th, and also the time. Once I click Save, this box will change and say that a text file is in process, press to stop. So I have a text file that is recording right now. Now we also have another box here that is called our diagnostic window. And what this is useful for is that it can take a snapshot of your subject's parameters, and it will only take the reading if the subject is not showing error data. So right now I'm going to do a 5-second measurement of my subject, and you'll see after 5 seconds have elapsed, my system will report the parameters over here in red and blue. So it may take a few seconds to get the oxygen saturation or breath rate, but once I do, those will come in. So this is a way to average the data. You can do anything from 5 seconds of a measurement to 30 seconds of a measurement, depending on what type of measurement period you want to do. So you can also auto-run this. So if you click auto-run, it will save this to your computer as well. And I'm just going to save this to my desktop. And again, it's defaulting to the date and time. And once I click Save, you'll see that this is executing. And every 5 minutes, my system will take a 5-second measurement and write that to a file. The reason that a lot of our researchers like this is because sometimes if your mouse is very active like it is now, you can kind of step away from the animal and give the animal a chance to acclimate and calm down. This is not something that I've done in today's demonstration because I want you to see how our system works with a rambunctious subject as well as one that's completely still. So you can do that. So this is our diagnostic window. We also have an alarm function in here. These can be used for both anesthetized and conscious subjects. So, for example, if I want to be notified if my heart rate goes below a certain value, let's say 900, just for demonstration purposes, I can select that. And once I hit this, it will say low heart rate, and the system will start beeping at me. So this will let you know if your subject is compromised in any way. To go back to my default values, I can click this button, and the alarm will stop if I set these alarms and close my window. But just to show you a little bit more, we do have these rate compare alarms that can be used if the animal's anesthesia is too deep or too light, if you're working with anesthetized subjects. But let's say you are dealing with conscious subjects that are sick. We have some customers that are looking to establish a humane endpoint for their subject if they're sick. So you can set this to go off if their measurements go below a certain value. So I'm just going to close this window. And the other button down here is for temperature. This can only be monitored in anesthetized subjects as well. The last thing that I want to do in today's demonstration, again, I'm going to just pull up our subject so you can see. My subject's kind of just sitting there now, and our measurements are coming in very nicely right now. So throughout this demonstration, you can see how periods of motion can affect our parameters, okay? So for example, right now, you see my mouse is standing up and trying to look around the cage. And you can see that the measurement will do that. However, if I tap on this, you should see that the animal will slow down to a point that our system can lock in on our measurements, okay? Some customers prefer to hold the animal in their hand if they're looking to just spot check their oxygen saturation. However, we don't do this. We just let them in their cages and kind of let them be mice and just give them a chance to slow down so that we can get our measurement. So I'm going to now close out the MouseOX software, and I'm just going to do that by hitting the stop button. And I have to stop recording this data, so I'm going to do that. And what I'm going to do is open up Microsoft Excel to show you our data. So our data can be found on our desktop. So I'm going to go to Open File. Now let me just share this with you so you can see it. And on my desktop, I should have these files saved. Now I need to select all files since it was a text file. And over here you can see my continuous recording. And I'm just going to import this into Excel. And you can see here that this is what our file will look like. And let me just open this for you. So you can see that this is the date and a timestamp here. This is every single second, the subject that we're working with. I'm only working with one subject right now. However, we do have a sensor switching unit that is called a multiplexer that can switch between numbers of subjects, up to 16. And you will see that in here I do have some error-coded data. So a 0 will represent an error-free data point. However, if you see numbers in here, aside from 0, that can mean certain things. So basically, if I just go through this file, you'll start to see that I should have some periods here, like in this area of error-free data, completely error-free. However, some might be lost breath rate, lost oxygen saturation, that sort of thing. So depending on what measurement you're looking for, you know, for example, if you're looking for heart rate, we never lose the heart rate, so that's not something you're going to have to worry about. However, the breath rate is our most sensitive measurement, and also oxygen saturation can be sensitive to motion as well. So this is our continuous recording, and I'm just going to open up our diagnostic file so you can see what that looks like. And this is our diagnostic file, so you can see it will save this according to the date and the time, and we'll also have our readings here. So it's just a little bit different, as you won't have a data point for every second. It will condense your data and average it together for you, and you'll also notice there is no error data in here because the system will only report what is a true error-free data parameter. The last thing that I want to show you is a WinDAC recording. So I'm just going to go back to my desktop and open a WinDAC file so you can see what that looks like. And this is WinDAC. So WinDAC will give you a graphical representation of your data. It is a third-party software that we include with our system at no charge. So this is what WinDAC looks like, and you'll see our parameters from top to bottom over here, and the file actually reads from left to right. So this is WinDAC, and this is another type of file format that you can choose. So I'm just going to end our demonstration for today. If you have any questions, please contact us. You can find our contact information on our website, which can be found at www.starlifesciences.com. We also have quite a few publications and articles on our website, as well as upcoming events that we may be going to. So we encourage you to check out our site. And again, thank you for joining us today.